A light fell from the sky. The sky was quiet that night. The stars looked calm, and the wind whispered through the forest trees. Jake was sitting outside his small wooden cabin, drinking warm coffee, when he saw something strange in the sky. A bright light shot across the sky like a falling star, but it was too big, too fast, and it was burning red. It didn't move like a normal shooting star. It twisted and turned like it was trying to stay in the air. Then it crashed deep into the forest with a loud boom, shaking the ground like a small earthquake. Jake stood up quickly. His instincts kicked in. He had seen war before, and this crash felt different. It didn't feel like nature, it felt like something made, something alive. He grabbed his flashlight and a small backpack, and without thinking much, he went into the woods. As he got closer to the crash site, he smelled smoke and something metallic. Trees were broken. Branches lay scattered, and the soil had a long burn mark leading deeper into the forest. It was like something had crashed hard but tried to slow down at the last moment. Jake followed the trail carefully. He saw no fire, just steam and broken pieces of shiny material, smooth and silver, like parts of a machine. Then he heard something. It was soft, but it was there, a cry. A weak, painful sound. Not an animal, not a human either. It was something else. He moved toward the sound, shining his light carefully. His heart was beating faster now. Behind a large rock and some fallen branches, he saw her. She was lying on the ground, half buried in leaves and dirt. She was not human. Her skin had a soft glow, almost silver blue, and her hair was long and strange, with strands that looked like glass. Her body was covered in torn armor, nothing Jake had ever seen before. She was badly hurt. Blood, silver in color, was slowly dripping from her arm and leg. Her chest rose and fell, but weakly. One of her eyes was open, glowing faintly, and it looked at Jake with fear and something else. Maybe hope. Jake didn't move for a second. He had seen many strange things in life, but nothing like this. Still, something in him reacted. She wasn't a monster. She was hurt. She needed help. Slowly, he stepped closer. She didn't run or attack. She just closed her eyes, like she had no strength left. Jake bent down, carefully checked her wounds, and gently lifted her in his arms. She was light, much lighter than a human, and warmer too. Her skin felt soft but strong. As he carried her, he noticed symbols glowing on her armor, then fading. Her body was shutting down, but she was alive for now. He took her back to his cabin and placed her on his bed. He cleaned her wounds as best as he could, using his old medical supplies. Her skin reacted strangely to the medicine, but the bleeding stopped a little. She didn't wake up. She just lay there, breathing slowly. Jake sat next to her, looking at the alien girl who had fallen from the sky. Who was she? Why was she here? What had crashed in his forest? And most of all, was she alone? He didn't know. But deep inside, he felt something was coming, something bigger. This girl wasn't just an accident. She was a warning. Outside, the night was quiet again, but the stars above seemed to watch. Something had entered Earth that wasn't supposed to be here. And Jake, a lonely man with a quiet life, had just stepped into something far more dangerous than he ever imagined, and yet he didn't walk away. He stayed by her side, not knowing that saving her would change his life forever. She's not from this world. Jake woke early the next morning. The sun was rising, but his thoughts were heavy. The strange girl still lay in his bed, barely moving. Her skin had stopped glowing, but her silver blood had dried like tiny streams of metal. Her armor was broken in places, revealing soft skin marked with symbols he couldn't read. She looked peaceful but not human. Not even close. As Jake checked her pulse again, she suddenly gasped. Her eyes flew open bright, glowing blue. She sat up fast, breathing hard like she'd just escaped a nightmare. Jake raised his hand slowly to calm her, but her gaze locked on him with panic. She looked around, confused, her hands ready to defend herself. Then, without warning, she spoke. The words were soft, but they made no sense. A strange language, smooth and sharp at the same time. But the fear in her voice was clear. She backed away, falling off the bed, trying to crawl back as her body shook. Jake didn't move. He stayed calm, spoke gently. "You're safe. I found you. You were hurt." She didn't understand. But something in his voice made her stop. Her breathing slowed a little. Her hands trembled. Then she reached toward him, not to attack, but to touch. As her fingers brushed his arm, something happened. Jake saw flashes in his mind. Not dreams images, a metal ship flying through space. A throne made of crystal. A circle of angry alien faces. Then fire. Betrayal. A hand pushing her into an escape pod. And a name, Zareya. Jake fell backward, blinking hard. The girl's hand dropped. She had shown him something, some kind of memory or message. She looked at him now with less fear, maybe even a little trust. He pointed to her and said, "Zareya." She didn't reply, but her eyes shimmered. She stood slowly, her body weak, but graceful. Her movements were strange, almost too smooth. She looked at her broken armor, then back at Jake. Then she did something unexpected. She walked to the window and looked out, her eyes wide at the view of trees and sky. Zareya whispered a word softly. Jake didn't understand it, but the way she said it felt like wonder. Like this was her first time seeing Earth. Maybe it was. Then. Her body shook again. She grabbed her side, clearly still hurt. Jake rushed to help her sit. She let him, this time not pulling away. Her skin was hot, her breath unsteady. She needed help, but not the kind a hospital could give. Jake sat beside her. He looked at her, at this alien girl who had fallen from the stars. She was not just some visitor. She was someone important, maybe a princess. And if she came in secret, hurt and afraid, then someone powerful must want her gone. For now, she was safe in Jake's cabin. But Jake knew this peace wouldn't last. Somewhere out there, someone was probably already looking for her. And the moment they found her trail, they would come. The hunter has landed. 2 nights had passed since Zareya crashed on Earth, but the air around Jake's cabin no longer felt quiet. It was like the forest was holding its breath. The birds that usually chirped at dawn were silent. Even the wind seemed to hide in fear. Jake had lived in those woods for years. He knew the sounds of nature. Now, something unnatural had entered. Zareya had healed just enough to walk, but her steps were slow. Her eyes constantly scanned the trees as if she could feel something. Jake couldn't. She had not spoken much, but that morning she drew a shape in the dirt outside the cabin. It was a symbol, a clawed hand, and a circle. She pointed to it, then to the sky. Then she whispered one word in broken English. Hunter. That word sent a chill through Jake's bones. Later that day, while checking his old hunting traps, Jake found something terrifying. One of the steel traps was bent, twisted like soft plastic. Deep claw marks tore through a thick tree trunk nearby. But there were no animal prints. Only a smooth burn in the soil, like something hot had hovered, then landed. That night, Jake sat awake, a rifle beside him. Zareya rested nearby, her body still weak, her breathing shallow. The cabin was dark, but Jake didn't sleep. He was trained to feel danger, and now it felt close. Then, just past midnight, a faint vibration crept through the ground. Not loud, just enough to wake the instincts of a soldier. He stepped outside, heart pounding. The forest looked empty. But something had changed. The scent in the air was different, sharp and bitter, like burned metal mixed with wet earth. He took slow steps toward the trees. His flashlight flicked for a second, then went dead. He stood still, listening. A soft growl broke the silence, not from any animal he knew. And then, eyes. 2 glowing red eyes watched him from the trees. Not blinking. Not human. Jake backed away, trying to remain calm. The red eyes followed him, not attacking, but not retreating either. He reached the cabin and shut the door quietly. Zyraya opened her eyes, already alert. She looked at him, then whispered again, "Hunter." In the corner of the cabin, Zyraya opened a part of her armor that Jake hadn't noticed before. From it, she pulled a small, glowing shard, a piece of crystal. She placed it in her palm, and it floated slightly, spinning fast, projecting a soft light. A small holographic image appeared, an alien figure in dark armor. Tall, cloaked in shadows, holding a long staff with a burning tip. The hunter. Zyraya pointed at it, then to the forest, and said one word that didn't need translation. Here. She wasn't running from an army. She was running from one. One trained killer. One tracker who had already landed on Earth, and now it had found her scent. Jake realized the truth. This wasn't just about helping an alien girl anymore. This was survival. Not just for her, but maybe for all of them. Asterisk secrets of the alien. Princess, the morning light crept through the trees, but it didn't bring peace. Jake barely slept. The memory of those red eyes in the dark still burned in his mind. Zyraya sat quietly near the fire, her armor folded beside her, and her hands wrapped around the strange crystal she had shown him the night before. Her face looked calm, but her eyes were sharp, watching every shadow, every sound. Jake finally asked, "What are you really running from?" She looked at him and didn't speak for a long moment. Then, in her soft, broken English, she began to explain. "My name, Zyraya, Princess of Valir." She tapped her chest gently, then pointed to the sky. "Home? Not safe. My sister wants my crown." Her voice trembled. "She sent Hunter to kill." Jake didn't know what to say. A princess. Not just an alien, but royalty. Hunted. By her own blood. Zyraya opened her palm again and showed him the crystal. Memory stone. "Holds proof. She lies. If I die, truth dies too." She handed it to Jake. The crystal pulsed in his hand, warm and alive. Images filled his mind for a second. Zyraya standing before a throne, angry voices, her sister's face twisted in rage. Then the sound of alarms and gunfire. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was political. It was war. Suddenly, Zyraya shivered. She clutched her side where a wound hadn't fully healed. Jake rushed to help her, but she shook her head. "I need light, energy." She pointed to the sky. "Your sun, it heals me, slowly." Jake helped her outside into the sunlight. As the warm rays touched her skin, faint blue lines lit up across her arms like flowing veins. She closed her eyes and breathed deeper. Her body needed sunlight like fuel. As she sat there soaking up the warmth, Jake asked, "Why Earth? Why here?" Zyraya looked up. Old map. Long ago, humans helped lost travelers. Not many, but kind. She paused, then whispered, "I hoped." That one word hit Jake harder than he expected. Hoped. She had no army, no ship, no way to fight back. All she had left was hope. And him. Jake knew now that hiding her wasn't enough. The hunter would return, maybe with more. Earth wasn't ready for this. But Zyraya wasn't ready to give up either. She turned to him, eyes steady, voice clearer than before. "You helped me when I had nothing. If I live, I give you everything I have." Jake didn't know what she meant, maybe her loyalty, maybe something more. But one thing was clear now. She wasn't just a lost alien anymore. She was a secret worth killing. 4? And Jake? He was the only one standing between her and a shadow waiting in the trees. Asterisk. Human and alien fight together. By the time the third night came, the forest no longer felt like a place to hide. It had become a battlefield waiting to explode. The hunter was still out there, watching, waiting, planning. Ziraya could feel him. Her instincts were sharper than any sensor. She told Jake, he waits for weakness, waits for fear. Jake didn't wait. He knew the only way to protect her was to fight back. And not just defend, but strike with purpose. He spent the day setting traps around the cabin snares, tripwires, hidden spikes made from sharpened metal. His hands worked with muscle memory, built during years of survival and war. The tools were old, but his mind was still sharp. Ziraya watched him, then stood, her body steadier now. Her skin shimmered faintly in the sunlight. She reached into her armor and pulled out a strange device, the size of a small stone. It clicked open, unfolding like a flower into a sleek silver disc. "Plasma blade," she said. A blue light pulsed from the edges. She handed it to Jake. "For you?" Jake smiled slightly. "I like your style." They didn't speak much. That day, there was nothing left to say. The sun fell, the sky darkened, and the forest grew cold and still. Then it began. A low vibration hummed through the trees. Jake felt it in his chest before he heard the footsteps, heavy, slow, deliberate. Ziraya's eyes glowed, her body tense. She whispered, "He's here." Branches snapped. A shadow moved through the trees like a ghost. Then the red eyes returned closer than ever. A tall figure stepped into the clearing, wrapped in dark armor that shimmered like oil. The hunter. His weapon crackled with energy, and his face was hidden behind a metal mask. Jake didn't wait. He raised the plasma blade and threw a smoke flare into the air. The clearing filled with gray mist. Ziraya moved like a dancer, fast and silent, striking from the side while Jake distracted the hunter from the front. The traps worked. One explosion hit the hunter's leg, slowing him. Ziraya landed a blow to his chest, but he struck back hard, slamming her into a tree. Jake roared and charged, blade flashing. The hunter knocked him down, but Ziraya rose again, her hands glowing with strange light. She screamed, and a blast of blue energy hit the hunter full force. He fell back, armor cracked. For the first time, he retreated. He vanished into the shadows without a sound. The forest was silent again. Smoke drifted through the air. Jake stood, bleeding slightly. Ziraya leaned on him, her body shaking. "We heard him," she said, "but he will return, not alone." Jake looked at her and nodded. "The next time, we hit harder." That night, they didn't sleep. They sat by the fire, side by side, alien and human. Enemies had become partners. Strangers had become something more. But they both knew the real fight hadn't even started yet. The truth about Earth, the hunter was gone for now, but Jake knew better than to feel safe. A wounded predator doesn't disappear. It regroups. It returns stronger. Ziraya had sensed it too. The forest felt quieter, but not calmer. It was the silence before a greater storm. They left the cabin before sunrise, taking only what they needed. Ziraya had studied the stars the night before and found a location where the Earth's magnetic field was weak, a perfect spot to send a signal. Jake led them up into the rocky hills, a place few people dared to hike. The terrain was hard, but Ziraya moved with growing strength. Her body had absorbed enough sunlight to restore her energy, and now her steps were steady, her eyes sharp. Hours later, they reached a cliff overlooking a wide valley. Ziraya opened a hidden panel in her armor and pulled out a small, sphere-shaped device. She placed it on the ground and it lit up with blue rings. "This is a beacon," she said. "If I send now, my people might come." Or they might ignore it. Jake frowned. Why ignore it? She didn't speak at first. Then she said quietly, because if they believe I'm dead, my sister keeps her crown. Jake looked at her. So if they answer the signal, you still have a chance. But if they don't? I'm truly alone, she whispered. She activated the beacon anyway. As it hummed. She sat beside Jake on the edge of the cliff. The sky was turning orange with sunset. She looked out at the world and smiled faintly. Your Earth, so open, so green. Even your air is kind. Jake chuckled. Never heard anyone call it kind before. She turned to him, more serious now. You gave me food, shelter, trust. I come from a place where power is everything. No one helps without gain. She paused, voice softer. You helped without asking why. Jake looked away, not knowing what to say. But then Zaraya touched his arm gently. I begin to understand why humans survive so much. You protect more than just life. You protect meaning. Before Jake could respond, a sudden beep came from the beacon. Zaraya's expression changed instantly. Signal blocked, she said. Another beacon, near, not mine. Jake's heart sank. The hunter? No, she said. Worse. Backup. Far across the valley, a small black shape appeared in the sky. Then another, and another. Ships, not hers. Jake stood, adrenaline flooding his chest. How many? 3, she said. But fast, elite, not searchers killers. Jake pulled his rifle from his bag. Then we don't hide this time. Zaraya stood too, eyes glowing faintly. No, we show them what Earth does when it protects something. The wind picked up around them as the ships grew closer. Zaraya had finally found something worth fighting for, not a crown, not a throne, but the simple kindness of one man on a forgotten world. And now, both of them were ready to protect it with everything they had. The sky above Earth was no longer empty, and the war had just begun. Asterisk. The final stand and the silent goodbye. The ships arrived before dawn, cutting through the clouds like knives. Sleek, silent, and deadly, 3 black crafts hovered above the valley, then dropped low without warning. No warning lights. No sound of diplomacy. They came to finish what the hunter had failed. Zaraya stood tall beside Jake on the cliff, her armor recharged and glowing faintly in the rising sun. Her eyes burned blue, calm but fierce. She wasn't just a survivor now. She was a warrior, a leader, a symbol of truth. Jake checked his traps one last time. The entire ridge was lined with defense trip mines, old tech, sharp steel, and the one plasma blade Zaraya had modified to explode on impact. He wasn't trained for space battles, but this was Earth, and no outsider would touch his land without bleeding. The first ship released 3 soldiers tall, faceless beings in red armor, each holding crackling weapons. They moved fast. But Jake and Zaraya were faster. Zaraya moved like a flash of lightning, cutting through the first attacker with a clean strike to the chest. Jake triggered 2 mines, blowing apart the path behind them. Smoke, fire, and ash filled the air. The second wave landed heavier, stronger, using gravity grenades. Jake was knocked down, but Zaraya pulled him to safety, shielding him with her armor. You fight like one of us, she said, but with more heart. Jake grinned, wiping blood from his forehead. That's just Earth style. Then came the final figure, the hunter, back from the shadows. His armor was damaged, but his rage made him more dangerous than ever. He leapt into the fight, ignoring Jake, charging straight for Zaraya. They clashed under the burning sky, steel and energy flying in every direction. Zaraya's blade sparked, her body moving with power fueled by memory, by betrayal, by purpose. With a final scream, she drove her weapon into the hunter's chest and with one last push, activated the explosive core. The blast shook the valley. The hunter was gone. The smoke cleared slowly. Jake crawled to Zareya, finding her breathing. Barely. She had fallen to her knees, the armor cracked, her skin glowing too bright. "It's done," she whispered. Above them, a fourth ship appeared, different from the others. Sleek, silver, royal. It hovered in place, then slowly descended. A light opened beneath it, soft and welcoming. Zareya looked at Jake. They answered. Jake looked at her, confused. "Then go. This is your chance." Zareya reached into her armor and pulled the memory crystal. She pressed it into Jake's hand. "Keep it. If I die again, let the stars know who I was." He held it tightly. "I'd rather keep you instead." Zareya smiled, weak but warm. "You already did." She stood, slowly, painfully, and walked toward the light. At the edge, she turned around one last time. Her voice was barely louder than the wind. "Thank you, Earthman, for seeing more than an alien." Jake watched as she disappeared into the ship, the light fading as it rose into the sky. No promises, no long speeches. Just a goodbye wrapped in silence. And as the sky returned to peace, Jake stood alone, no longer just a loner in the woods. He was now the keeper of a secret, a friend of a princess, a guardian of truth born from the stars.